All right, we're going to talk about trucking and business, owner operators, rates and lanes. We're on all of the channels, just doing an impromptu Wednesday night, Monday night live. I'm going to play around with some graphics here. Nope, wrong. There we go. So let's see. I just need a basic. There we go. Text. Okay. White. Or I wonder, will it give me? Nope. Background. There we go. That's what I need. Just like that. Okay, now download. Transfer background. And design. See if this works. So we'll see what everybody wants to talk about tonight. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. Let's see. How do we do that? I need to make that thing smaller. That's a little too big because I'd rather that be like that. I decided to go live on all the platforms tonight just to see what we could get cooking. There we go. That's better. That's a little bit better. Good evening, cheap freight hauler. I've started doing some more publishing on YouTube. I'm curious. I haven't really played with the shorts all that much. So pretty much anytime I post on TikTok, I'm moving it over. I'm putting the same thing on YouTube. I kind of want to see what the difference will be. I'm flying out tomorrow to go to Louisiana for Landstar BCO Appreciation Days. That's always a lot of fun. Um, there we go. That's better. If you are a Landstar BCO and you've never been to one of their BCO days events, you should go because it's a lot of fun. They have they do it's like 2 days. It's like a conference, and they've got door prizes, but then they have topics and they bring people in from the corporate office. And my favorite, never miss it, is they do a talk on who sets the rates. And you talk about awesome. I need to make sure. Are we using the right microphone? Let's make sure. It's the only way. Yep, we're good. We are good with that. Tap the screen, guys, for better coverage. Well, and so I'm using a software called Restream that lets me go to Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok all at the same time. So you guys on TikTok, you can actually turn your phone sideways and it will go full screen. Trucking is hard. Yes, it is. It's not as hard as it used to be. Um, back in the day when we didn't have any kind of these um tools, I mean, I used to have to call home with a calling card, you know, um, and could only call home with a payphone. Um, I think there's a lot of things that we take for granted um, today that makes this job so much easier than it used to be. Um, I'd love to be able to measure how many truck parking opportunities exist today versus when I started in 1997. Um, I mean, I don't I don't remember ever having trouble finding a place to park, or I mean, it just wasn't a problem. And I still don't have a problem finding parking, but I plan ahead. I know where I'm going to stop. If I have to reserve a spot, I'll reserve a spot. But there's there's a fundamental element of routing and trip planning that has been lost, where the fundamentals that we had to use back in the day before all of the apps, the trucker path and the hammer and all this stuff, a lot of those fundamentals have been lost, and we've gotten to a point where we're kind of too dependent on the technology. You know, I've got an app called All Stays Truck and Travel. I think it's only available for iPhone, at least last time I checked. I love it just because I can just put truck parking. Well, it'll show me hotels and Walmarts and rest areas, and um, if there's a McDonald's that's got 5 spaces, or a Wendy's, um, you know, you don't only have to stop at truck stops. But unfortunately, over the last 15 or 20 years, you know, uh, used to be you could park at Walmarts and stuff easily, and you have a combination of both truck drivers being trashy slobs, and All Stays, ALLSTAYS, All Stays Truck and Travel. It's a really nice app. I really like it. Um, but we've got the NIMBYs. Y'all know what NIMBYs are? NIMBY. Um, the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. Um, which is fascinating. How much people who are absolutely dependent on trucking and transportation, how much they hate trucking or truckers or trucks. Um, I had an experience. This was 2014, maybe 15 or 16. But I did multi-stop loads that went to Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, and I was in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, which I think is that on 95? I think it is on 95. And my toaster broke. Well, I had a little toaster oven, and it broke. And I thought, well, man, I'm gonna swing in this Walmart, and I'm gonna swing in this Walmart and go buy me a toaster. Well, as I'm about to pull in, I get a phone call, and it was the cable internet people that I had been arguing with over their terrible service. So I'm talking to their customer service guy. So I pull around down to the edge of the parking lot, way away from the cars. And there was a Werner truck sitting over on the edge of the parking lot. And then there's me. And so I'm talking to this dude. I got my Bluetooth headset on. And this woman walks up. She comes, she comes out like out of the woods behind or out of the neighborhood. And she walks up and she says, "Didn't you see the signs?" I said, what are you talking about? Now, mind you, I'm on the telephone. I've got the headset on. But in this moment, I completely forget about him. She says, "Don't you see the signs?" I said, "Lady, what are you talking about?" "The no parking signs." And I said, "Well, I'm not staying here. As soon as I get done with this phone call, I'm going to walk in that Walmart. I'm going to buy me a new toaster oven and I'm going to leave." And then she points at the Werner truck across the parking lot. "Well, are you with him?" I said, "Lady, there's 3 million trucks on the road, and me and him are just two of them. I have no idea who that is." "What? But the signs say no parking." I said, "Lady, I have been in this business 20 years, and I have been ignoring those no parking signs as long as they have been put up. I really don't give a shit what you think." And finally, I said, "Do you work for Walmart?" "No, I live in the neighborhood, and we're concerned about these trucks sitting over here." And I'm like, "Well, why don't you go be concerned about something that matters?" And so then this guy says something, and I remember, that I'm in the conversation with him. Um, but I don't know how we've gotten to a point in modern society where society is so completely disconnected from the basic things that make their lives possible. I want to tell you, now I'm not a doomsday guy when new technology comes along. Like, hey, I was going to end us all. Let's just get ready for a problem that's coming. Okay, when these drones start dropping shit at people's houses from like local distribution networks, they're really going to start hating trucks, you know, because they're so simple minded. Of course, they're educated, but they're so simple minded and they have no concept or clue about how anything around them works that when their groceries literally fall out of the sky, they're not for a second going to think about, "I wonder where that drone came from." Well, obviously, that drone came from some sort of local distribution center, which is going to be fed by trucks. Um, I used to say average intelligence when talking about America. I no longer do that. I just, it's easier to talk about the average stupidity. Um, Richie says, "I buy my chicken at the store where no animals were harmed." um, it, it's, it's an epidemic of ignorance. Obviously, before I started driving a truck in 1997, I didn't really understand what it took, for products to show up. It was only after I started driving a truck and I'm driving around the mall and I see the loading docks at the Sears. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I bet all their stuff comes from trucks too." Like, right? Like just if you've never been exposed to something, but now you would think in a time where literally all of the world's known information is literally at our fingertips. All you have to do is ask or be curious. And that is something that hit me today. This this $5 a mile bunch. Um They claim the brokers are taking all the money. Okay. Well, they should know how much they're getting. They don't know how much the broker's getting. They want 371 transparency, right? Okay. So let's say you're getting $1,000. Okay. Well, according to their, oh God, I hate to say knowledge. Their belief is that if they're getting $1,000, the customer paid $1,500 or $2,000. Now, of course, I don't even think they're looking at it in revenue terms. I think they're looking at it in rate per mile. Okay, so if they're getting $250, then the customer's writing a check for $5. I even had a comment on one of my videos. Well, the rates are already $5 a mile. What metric on planet Earth, not from Sonar, not from DAT, not from Truck Stop, there's no metric anywhere that says rates are $5 a mile. It's more like 2.25. Now, are there $5 a mile loads? Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact, what is 10,324 divided by 1149? I have a truck right now. Well, not right now. Wednesday, he's picking up a load that's $8.98 a mile. So are there those loads out there? Yeah. That load's 14 foot wide and is going 1,200 miles. Okay. And it's going to have $2,500 worth of permits on it. So even if we take that down, let's just go to 7,500 divided by 1149. It's still 650. Okay. But y'all, if you let's go to DAT right now. Okay. Let's do it right now. We're going to do it live, as Bill O'Reilly would say. Okay. So we're going to, let me make myself smaller. Okay. We're going to DAT. Where's it at? Maybe resources, trend lines. View trends. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Here we go. So rates climbed during holiday shortened work week. So this is I'm assuming for last week. Okay. 208, 206 van, 252 flatbed, 245 reefer. Okay. Whoops. Okay. So listen, danger. I'm about to get the calculator out. 2.06 plus 2.52 plus 2.45 divided by 3, $2.34. If the market says we're 234, okay? Then whatever you're getting minus that is the difference, okay? Now, we know that the historic truth by every metric that's ever been measured is the broker gets 15%. Okay, so 234 times 0.15 would be 35 cents. So that means either that's the rate plus the broker's 35 cents, or it's that rate minus the broker's 35 cents. Uh, But there's absolutely no indication whatsoever that the rates are that high. The problem with this twisted interpretation of what did I do? I thought I did. Stand by. Okay, 371. Uh-oh. Papa's going to have to take his glasses off. 371. I should have just Googled this. Where the hell is it? 380. 380. Well, that's 40. Where the hell is it three? Oh, no, it's 391. Sorry. I was thinking 371. 391.2. Nope. Is it 390? 391.2. Okay. Application for employment. Annual inquiry of driver record. Test. Okay. Why is that freaking book useless? Okay, let's go 391. Brokers. I think y'all were, is it 390? It's got to be 392. $371. 371.2. Okay. Okay. Here's where y'all are getting out of hand on this. All right, 371, 371.2 is the definitions, 371.3, records to be kept by brokers. Here's where they're losing their mind. Each party to a brokered transaction has the right to review the record of the transaction required to be kept by these rules. Well, here's the problem with that. You can either A, have contract security or not. Okay. You're wanting something that you think is going to give you something that you're not going to get. I know it sounds good. But the problem is if you try to get 371 point is it 3? 371.3C, if you try to allow the piercing of that contract between shipper and broker, you're gonna open a box you don't want opened for you. Brokers destroy thousands of families. It's FAMILIES, not there's no apostrophe. How they allow them to get so much power. Okay. No broker has ever destroyed your family. Now, when my trucking business failed and it almost destroyed my family, and this house that I'm sitting in was almost foreclosed on, you know whose fault that was? It was mine. It wasn't Landstar, it wasn't agent, it wasn't brokers, it wasn't the president, it wasn't the FMCSA or the ELD, it was me. I made decisions that led to the downfall of my business. There was nobody else to blame. And if you would spend some time studying successful people instead of locking yourself in an echo chamber with people that are just as ignorant as you are and keep affirming things for you that aren't true, you'll find that every single successful person has experienced failure at least once, if not more. Because the chances of you starting a business, and this is the foundational level of the problem here. It's not about, I've got a Peterbilt with a 18 speed and that guy's got a Freightliner with a manual, so I'm better than him. That's bullshit. And it's nonsense. The problem is that you have people, most of which ended up in trucking by accident. There's very few people in trucking today that were like, oh, I can't wait to get into trucking. Okay. And God help them. All they have to rely on is their government school public education, which is one tiny step above completely useless. And you have a handful of people that went to college, which is one notch of useless above the government schools. Okay. Y'all don't have any concept or clue about business. I didn't. I was probably marginally better than your average person, maybe 20% better. But it wasn't until I met Larry and I went, oh, so this is how a business is run. Oh, wow, what a difference. You cannot buy a truck, lease a truck, borrow a truck, rent a truck, and put it into action in the market if you're not going to run it like a business. I know a bunch of y'all want to go out here and pretend, but I see it every day. You don't know the most fundamental basics of business, and then when someone tries to say, "Hey, here's some fundamental facts of business that you need to understand that'll make you not be so broke and desperate." And what do? Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, cupcake. I failed because of me. And what's hilarious is I saw a comment on the um what's he call himself? The protractor, the oh well, he's just a failed trucker. Yeah, yeah. I failed at it. And it fucking sucked. It was awful. And I've been sounding the alarm ever since, saying if you do it wrong, it will destroy your life and you will be to blame. Because I lived it. Stop letting the brokers rip off the drivers. When I was 18, I worked in a mental health facility for people with profound um, issues, right? And it prepared me for this because they would say things that were outlandish and wild, and they would call you names and spit on you, and they would um, and they would get their abnormally large genitalia out and swing it at you, right? But in your mind, you knew, okay, well, listen, you can't be mad at this mentally challenged person. And that's what I feel like reading these comments. No one should be driving a truck for less than $3 a mile if they own their THEIR, if they own their truck, THEIR, not THERE. Why? Tell me why should no one should be driving a truck for less than $3 a mile? My cost is $1.70. Why $3? Why? Because you just made it up. It's a number that sounds good to you, but it is absolutely based on nothing. There's not a single metric that you can find anywhere that says that the cost to operate a truck should be, should be X. Now, are there people who have a lower cost of operation? Yeah. Are there people that have an abnormally high cost of operation because they bought the wrong truck or bought too much truck or have too many expenses? Yeah. Well, if you don't make good decisions, you can't be used as the metric. Why work to break even? We don't work to break even. Our average loaded rate per mile for 2025 is $3.71. But the cost is $1.70. That includes saving 25 cents a mile for maintenance. So if you take that out, $1.70 minus 0.25, it's $1.45. But y'all want, but you don't want to work for any of it. You don't want to separate yourself from the steering wheel holder beside you. Okay, so here's a perfect example. Ricky Thurman says 95 cents cost here, and then he gets a reply. That's the stupidest comment. There's nobody that can operate at 95 cents a mile. Instead of going, hey, Ricky Thurman 1219, that's really interesting number. How did you get there? No, that's not the comment from Chris G. Chris G just automatically says, oh, well, you can't do that. How about y'all learn how to ask people questions? If you think that Ricky Thurman's 95-cent cost is wrong, why don't you ask him? Hey, well, man, that's a really low rate of cost per mile. Why don't you show me how you did that? Why don't you tell me how you did that? I rarely get that when I say that our cost is $1.70 including 25 cents. Nuh-uh, like a bunch of toddlers. It's like being in fucking middle school. I was with Landstar and you couldn't get more than 171. See, the problem with your comment, it it's wrong. It should say I was with Landstar and I couldn't get more than $1.71, which means you did not use the board correctly. You did not make relationships with who you needed to make. You did not do everything you needed to do to learn the system, because I promise you, out of the 10,000 or 9,000 or 8,000 or however many there, um, we're not having that problem. Again, why not go to someone that's, here I am at Landstar, can clearly prove with unbelievable reams of documentation, because I'm a nerd with too many spreadsheets. Now, how few times I get, wow, man, that's a great number. Congratulations for the good work you're doing. Can you teach me how to do that? How does that work? No, I don't get that. I get, you're full of shit. It's literally like being in middle school with a bunch of prepubescent toddlers that can't even comprehend that maybe somebody knows more than they do. Because there was a part that, okay, there are a lot of companies having problems. Look at Carol Fulmer. Okay, go watch the daughter's TikTok from Carol Fulmer. You know whose fault it was that Carol Fulmer went out of business? Carol Fulmer. And she outlines it. She talks about everything that they did wrong. She said, here's something we did this wrong, we did that wrong, we did that wrong. But y'all don't look around at all of the other companies that are still in business and doing well and thriving, even in a down market, which y'all, this don't even compare to 14. If y'all think it was bad now, do you remember her saying they had all the equipment parked because they couldn't hire drivers? Yeah. Because they bought a bunch of equipment that they didn't need. They went and bought a bunch of brand new trucks and then couldn't get the drivers that they needed. I don't know if y'all have noticed, truck drivers are impossible. I was one for over 25 years. They'll leave you in a heartbeat if they think somebody's going to give them 5 cents more on a mile, or they'll sucker them into a 1099 contract working for the Russians. They'll destroy the truck and then figure out a way to make it your fault. If not for our program where we hire drivers specifically for the training program, there would be no trucks. There's not a chance that I would operate trucks just for the sake of hauling freight and hiring drivers. Not a chance. I'd end up in jail. Ricky says he'd be happy to share his cost per mile. Y'all, there's so many people that I have met over the years. There was a dude when I first went to Schneider. Are you Blue Ribbon Logistics out of Indianapolis? No, that is a carrier. We're not a carrier. There was a guy, this 2006. Yeah. 2006, I go to Schneider. I've been off the road for, I don't know, a year or two. And I was struggling with something. And I loved this guy. Okay. And it just bumped into him getting fuel. And I asked him, I don't even remember. I asked him some kind of question. He said, well, son, he was a big, tall guy from Georgia, big white beard. He said, listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. You want the best piece of advice you ever got? And I said, yes, sir, I'd love to. He said, you stay out of that room in there. He was talking about the operating center where all the drivers sat around. He said, you stay out of that room in there and you don't listen to you don't have to listen to a word. Any one of those idiots has anything to say. He said, you got to have boots this tall to get through all the bullshit that you're going to hear in that room. So just stay away from all of those fools And he taught me how to work the algorithm. This was 2006. He taught me how to work the algorithm of how the Schneider load planning thing worked. Y'all, my income went up $500 a week instantly. I said, "Wait a minute. You mean all I have to do is this, this, and this, and it just keeps me loaded?" He was like, "Yep, son, it's a real simple deal. You do this, this, and this, and everything was fine." And from that day until I left Schneider 2 years later, I was a top earner. I went in when I would have an opportunity to go inside the office and I would talk to the load planners and the dispatchers, I would say, "Hey, is there anything I should be doing differently?" And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. "Why why why are you asking that question?" And I'm like, "Well, I just wanna know, like, is there anything I can do better?" And they'd never heard a truck driver ask him that question before. So every place I have been since 2006, I've been the top earner because I went in asking questions. "Hey, how does this work? How does that work? What do I need to do better? What can I do different?" And just and the money followed. So when I became an owner operator, I tried to do the same. Big problem was I didn't have any discipline. I didn't have the discipline to save money. And so just like up at the shop, at my buddy's shop in Charleston, there's a row of trucks up there that have been abandoned by broke owner operators that the truck finally broke and they didn't have money to fix it. Y'all, some of them was a clutch. "Oh, I don't have money to put a clutch in." Really? And they just walk off and abandon the truck. The only reason I'm still in business is because of Blue Ribbon Podcasts. I've just crossed 3 years in business, bought the wrong truck and didn't know anything about business, but Blue Ribbon principles saved me. Appreciate that, Jake. Y'all are asking about, let me hit, there's questions on YouTube about the OPS. So the OPS is, let's see, I'll show you. Where- Store. So this is the starter set for the OPS. Um, it comes with the unit and 3 filters, and then here's all of the install kit. It's not rocket science. It comes with 2 lab kits. So this is the kit that you get. It also comes with a bubble wrap and a shipping label. And then you have to select your engine. Um, oh, it's not going to show that on the screen. But each kit is a different way. Each engine has a different kit. $915 plus shipping on our website. And if you have somebody install it, I think Cam's in Charleston charges 140, or I'm sorry, 4 hours. So about $560 to have it installed. Uh, the OPS over the time that I've been doing this has saved at least 3 engines just from doing oil samples. Set aside all the money that you save by not dumping the oil every 15 or 20,000 miles. As a Ranger driver, do you have a way to contact you? I'd like to talk about how to work system. Larry, send me an email. Um, hang on. No, I don't. Stand by. There it is. There's my email on the screen, chris@blueribbonlogistics.com. We're working on part of our trip to Louisiana next week is to kind of put the final touches on our actual mentoring program for BCOs. We've always done it, but we've been so preoccupied and focused with the master class and the employee drivers. We want to set this up to where it has some benchmarking, it has some goals and levels and things for, because you guys don't need to be in it forever. It needs to be something y'all do for 90 days and then move on, right? Um, but we're not happy with we're not happy with not having a really, really solid program for the BCO. So Barb and Phil and I are going to be in Louisiana for a couple of days, and we're gonna hash all that out, and we'll have something to announce here in a couple of weeks. Is Landstar worth going to? Sure. Lots of companies are worth going to. The question is, are you worth coming here? Are you going to come into the Landstar system and take advantage of everything that it has to offer? Are you going to learn how to be a master communicator? Are you going to learn how to be the best uh, customer service provider on the planet so that agents will remember you and call your phone before loads hit the board? My favorite sentence on the planet is, "Hey man, I wanted to call you before I posted this." Oh, that's a sweet, sweet sound. Yeah, there's a Jamaican lady. She's precious. "Hey, just wanted to check to see if you have any trucks. I wanted to call you before I posted this." Why do you think that happens? Why would an agent call me and say, "I want to give you the opportunity to haul this load before I put it on the board where anybody else can see it"? Why would she do that? Trust, right? She knows that if one of my guys pulls her load, no question, everything's going to be handled, even if there's a problem, because we're going to have problems. We're going to have breakdowns. We're going to have traffic. We're going to have weather. But she knows that without question, that if a problem arises, number one, is she's the first one to know about it. And she knows that when that phone rings, because listen, I have been in the position where I see the phone light up and it's terror. Like, oh, what hell is about to fall upon my head? Well, she knows that if I call, I could be calling to tell her I have a problem, but I'm more than likely going to say, "Hey, I have a problem, but here's how I'm working toward fixing it." Now, there could be a situation where I call and say, "Look, truck's broke down. It's going to be down for a couple of days. We're going to have to repower." Let me stroll through these comments. "I use the trucking office program to count everything on my truck, but I feel like it's not accurate and I'm not learning much like that. What's your advice?" Um, I would tell you to use profit gauges. Kevin Rutherford's profit gauges. It's like $19 a month. It's got a super simple user interface. And well, you know what? I've got let me find this. I've got a truck where they set up for us to do like a demo kind of deal with profit gauges. Let me find it. I hope it's still in here. Stand by. Yeah. So what I did was, I'm waiting for it to load. What I did was I put in all of this is from January of 2024. So this is how you would enter your settlement every week. It's super simple. Once you've put it up the first time, it automatically has all of those categories. So let's just look at the business report. Okay, so this was January 2024. This was Barb, who's now our dispatcher. Um, so she ran 14,839 miles. The total profit for that month was $9,555. So um, here's all the revenue. Okay, so 6,300 fuel surcharge, 43 cents a mile, line haul, New York arbitrary. All right, so and this was was she pulling a van? I think she was. Okay, so here's the fixed cost, insurance, tax license, fuel, all that. Okay, so came out with a 64 cent per mile. Um, but I really like, and it'll show you a P&L um, that looks like that. So it's super simple. And if you use the fuel gauges part of this, which I think is now $5 a month, it automatically, if you put your fuel in every time that you get fuel, so as an example, whoops, uh, that's everybody. So if I go like these are on my trucks. So if I go here, I can look at um, this is a 2017 Cascadia. So I can go, okay, from August 17th for 30 days. It's been 7.72. Here's the lifetime, 236,000 miles. Um, if you use this, where like example, you put in all your maintenance and all your fuel ups, it'll automatically drag all of that information straight in to profit gauges. So I would absolutely recommend that because it's just awesome. How do you feel about these guys pushing $5 mile minimum? They're clowns that don't know anything about history, trucking, or economics. Um, Joey Bag of Donuts. He always talks about numbers before the split. I make over 4,000 with them Russians as a driver and not owner. The Russians are the best. Oh, no, they're not. Uh, is that dry van because that's 2.4 to the truck? I don't know. I would love to pick your brain and learn what you know. Brother, we got 200, almost 250 episodes on YouTube. And we don't, I mean, we've been talking about this stuff for years. Um, sold my truck 3 months ago, never grossed under 400K. That's a worker. Um, do you, oh no, they don't have money because the brokers are robbing them. Right. Yeah. It's the brokers. Surely, it's sure. Have you all noticed that the people, let's just do a contrast. Okay. Blue Ribbon. All right. And Phil, Barb, Blake, even Larry, every one of us will tell you in our history of all the mistakes that we've made, right? Because it's full transparency. We'll tell you um, what we've done wrong and how we've learned from that. Have you noticed that these people that blame the brokers for everything have never done anything wrong? Never. Not one time. Not one time have they ever bought the wrong truck, ran the wrong lane, negotiated a bad rate. Not one time. But boy, the brokers are their easy scapegoat. Uh, been in freight brokerage for 25 years. It happens because you do what you say you're going to do. Yep. Um, what about box trucks? Can it be profitable? I don't think so. And now, look, I have zero experience with box trucks, but Blake, the owner of our company, has a like 30-year-old MC for box trucks, and they're struggling. And they know how to get it done. Like they know how to run that business. Box trucks is I wouldn't. I would not. Um, now I have heard some people making some crazy money with Sprinter vans. Um, but I would not mess with box trucks. Brokers nowadays don't care about relationships, only the cheapest drivers. Allie, unfortunately, that's just not true. Yeah, I know it sounds good. I know it sounds good. Um, but let's put yourself in the position of the broker these days. Now, when you do this, I want you to think about walking through the truck stop. Okay. The truck stop where you have to have your head on a swivel because somebody's going to come running into the truck stop at 50 miles an hour. And then I want you to just put your glasses on and think about walking through the truck stop and looking around at all of the people. How high are you going to set your expectations if you're a broker? I certainly wouldn't. But what if, in spite of all that, as a carrier, as an operator, even as a company driver, you just say, you know what? I am going to present myself at every opportunity in every way to every person that I come in contact with as a high 1% individual. I promise you, you will see great differences in your life. Now, everybody else is going to be miserable. Okay. And remember that when you're in a sea of miserable people, they hate when they see people surviving and succeeding while they're mired in their pile of dog shit that they've created. They will hate you. That's why we get the hate that we do, because they're jealous, right? Never one time do they go, "Oh man, you guys are really kicking ass. Teach me, show me how to do it." No, 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 no. They're so obsessed with ignoring their own failures, lack of responsibility, lack of awareness, lack of knowledge, lack of skill, lack of presentation. Again, last week, we have an episode of the podcast coming out Friday after next where I'm going to get a broker and a carrier and we're going to have a conversation. I put a 3-minute video on TikTok and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a carrier." Now, about 45 seconds in, I put my email address on the screen and I said, "So send me an email." The average watch time on that video is 36 seconds. And if you go to it, you'll see the comment section filled with, "Hey, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me." I've received 4 or 5 emails right now so far, and only 2 of them actually showed up with an email signature that had a company name, a person's name, a phone number, and an MC number. If y'all want to be treated like professionals, how about you drive like professionals, you dress like professionals, you talk like professionals, and God help us all, smell like professionals. Every person that comes into our program has to be shown how to make an email signature. How is the customer going to know who they're talking to? How are you going to identify yourself? What presentation are you going to make at every moment and every opportunity to be remembered? That's the amazing thing about being in 2025. Look at all the hate and discontent that's happened over the last, what, 5 days? It has never been easier to set yourself apart from this sea of dipshits. Um, you can, I mean, think about it. You think about the, like, New York City street, where all just people, 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 and one head pops up. "Oh, hey, I see that guy or girl." It's never been easier because the competition, Larry had a great line years ago. He said, "In trucking, there's a lot of capacity, but very little competition." So I'm going to promise you that if you'll present yourself as a professional that actually has a business through your email, through your text, through your phone calls, through your communication, through your delivery of the proof of delivery, through pictures of the load securement, from the time you pick up that load until the time you end up, that broker or that customer is like, "Wow, man, damn, I'm getting white glove service." They will never forget that. But you could just act like the rest of these dim-witted dipshits that don't give a damn about anything, anybody on earth except themselves. If you can't grasp the concept that you're in business to serve people, just don't get into business. You're gonna be miserable and you're gonna fail. And it's not gonna be the broker's fault. It's gonna be your fault. Uh, all right. Well, I am about to get thrown out of my office by the real boss. She texted me and she needs her computer, which means y'all got to go because mama's coming in the house.